Hello and welcome to CAD Live. Thank you very much. If you are joining this stream live, welcome. Hello, good to see you. And if you're watching this on the replay, hello and good to see you as well. So this is episode number 60. Oh God, I put it on the thumbnail. We're cracking through them though. We are cracking through them. It's God. Does it even really matter? Probably not. But it's let me just find it. And find out what number it is. What I want to kick off with, though, today, while I'm just looking for this, is, 86. Episode 86. Can you believe it? 86 episodes of this wonderful show, your finest show for live dating advice and relationship talk on the entire internet, probably. So welcome and thank you very much for tuning in. So what I want to do is go through some housekeeping, first of all, for this week, because the schedule this week is going to be slightly different. And I've got a very good excuse for that. And the excuse is I'm working on building out my new product, okay, which is going to be basically an approach accelerator, approach academy type product. And I've got to do some filming on it this week, because I kind of started last week and didn't get as much done as I wanted to. So I've really got to spend some time working on it. And so with that being the case, what I'm going to be doing is I likely won't go live tomorrow. So I likely won't be doing a live show tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. EST. Wednesday I will be, because all being well, we've got Nick August in the house. Nick August is the editor of a magazine called Punch Riot magazine, which is a magazine that publishes humorous and literary fiction, really, from writers within the men's online space. So Ryan Stone's written for it, Rob Says has written for it, host of other people. Ernst Graf, who's a friend of mine over on Twitter, he writes for it regularly. And I've got a story. I've got a short story coming up in the next issue of Punch Riot, which comes out on Friday. So on Wednesday, we're going to have Nick August on here, who is the presenter of the show called Let 'Em Burn, which you might know, with people like Bull Rush and, as I say, Rob Says on it, and Jack Napier goes on there, Ryan Stone goes on there. So you're going to have Nick August over here, and we're going to be talking about Punch Riot magazine, what it is, why he's doing it, what the aims of it are, etc., and probably some stuff about writing and writing in the 21st century, and is it still a cool thing or not, etc. So we're going to have that on Wednesday, and then on Friday, all being well, we're going to have an appearance, a cameo appearance from Mr. James Tusk, who is now in Rio, or he's in Brazil, I should say. He's in Brazil somewhere. He was in Rio. So that is definitely going to be something to look forward to. I don't know the exact time of that yet. I've got to firm it up with him, as the actress said to the bishop. So we'll sort that out. But all being well, we should have Mr. James Tusk on Friday again, which is going to be awesome. Get that update from Rio, find out what's happening in Brazil, etc. I have to say, look at the videos. It looks like a lot of fun is being had by all over there, but we can ask the man himself. So I will certainly be doing Wednesday and Friday, we'll be doing something. Tuesday and Thursday, I may take the day off from doing these streams, because I really need to just get my head down, crack on with recording this product, and getting it ready to get out to you guys. So that is why, if you come on here at one of these days and I'm not going live, that's the reason why, okay? I may put out some clips or something instead, or a short video, but it probably won't be a long live stream like this, because I just need to claw back that time, because otherwise this job's just not going to get done. All right, well, that being said, thanks, as I say, for tuning in live. I see some people trickling in now. If you're watching this on the replay, many thanks for that as well. We are going to be shaking things up on this channel at some point in the near future. We are going to be changing the way we do things around here, and there will be some surprises coming along as we go through the year, because I do want to shake things up for you guys. I don't want it just to be the same old thing, blah, blah, blah. So look out for that. But in the interim, we're continuing along with CAD Live, and we're doing these live streams. But as I say, we're going to be down to 3 this week because I do need to just grab that time back so that I can put this thing together for you. And it is something to be very excited about, by the way. Now, I'm going to be putting this out to my email list exclusively. Okay, so if you're not on my daily email list yet, then get on it, for goodness sake. The link is below. Okay, it's absolutely free, and I send out an email Monday to Friday, most Monday to Fridays each week. Okay, and it's an essay by me, a short article or an essay by me about dating, about game, about relationships, about my experiences, my thoughts and impressions, and sometimes we go beyond those topics and we talk more about general lifestyle stuff. We talk about dark triad stuff. We talk about the state of the world in general. Okay, but this is content that you can't get anywhere else. I may sometimes republish bits and pieces on my blog later, but in the main, this is content you can't get anywhere else, and certainly you get it first. Now, that brings me on to the next point, because what I've been doing over the last few weeks on the email list is publishing written notes, or a little written summary of each of the chapters in The Art of Seduction as I'm going through them on this channel. And as you'll know, if you've been tuning into recent episodes, I tend to have a sit down with Jack Napier. Sometimes we bring some other people in, John MLD, Ryan Stone, but generally me and Jack will sit down and we'll chew the fat on chapter by chapter going through the book The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene. Now, this week, I think we're going to be taking a break on that because Jack is busy. And as I've said, I've got some stuff on myself. So I think we will likely be taking a break on Art of Seduction this week in terms of the shows. And then we'll resume again next week. But don't worry, we haven't stopped the series. We haven't forgotten about it. And if you get onto my free email list, then I will be typing up more of those notes and sending out those articles in written form. So if you're into the Art of Seduction stuff and you're not on my email list yet, then you do need to get on with it, because you're absolutely crazy otherwise. You're absolutely crazy otherwise, because there's some high quality content going out in those emails. And these articles that I'm writing about the Art of Seduction, these little summaries, I'm looking to probably build them out into something bigger, maybe even a book or something for later in the year. And obviously this is with full credit to Mr. Robert Greene, this isn't trying to sort of use his material or anything, but what I may do is use them for the basis of some sort of a book, some sort of instructional guide, where I'll also talk about, my own experiences of, say, the player archetypes, my own experiences of some of the victim archetypes, and how I've dealt with those sorts of people, how, if it applies to me, how I've dealt with those issues in myself. So yeah, I am looking to build out these notes, these little articles about each chapter of The Art of Seduction. But if you get onto my email list, which you should, link below, then you will be the first to get that material. Probably repurpose that stuff on the blog, or, as I say, in a book or whatever, at some point down the line. But cheers. But if you want to be the first there, if you want to grab it first, then get onto that email list. Anyway, enough plugging the email list. You get the idea. You know what I'm saying. So, with all of that being said, how is everybody? Have you had a good weekend? Are you enjoying your Monday so far? Let me just put that up, and we can put the ticker at the bottom. So look, if you've got questions and comments and things that you want to cover, whack them into the chat, okay? And we will deal with them during this show, during the hour, okay? We will deal with your questions, with your conundrums, with your challenges, with your trials, your tribulations, all of this stuff in the dating arena, we will deal with. All questions will be answered as much as is humanly possible. And yeah, we'll be cracking on. It's going to be good. I do, though, want to kick off with something from Reddit, as is my tradition. But before we do that, the Alpha Widowmaker, hello, Mr. Adolf. Hello, Mr. Alpha Widowmaker. He says, Troy, I did indeed grab your books, just last week because I was saying grab my books here. So please do that if you haven't got them already. And he said he did grab them, and I've been thoroughly enjoying them. I greatly appreciate the intellectual heft you bring to the party. You truly are a thinking man's Chad. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that enormously. It is very nice to be called a thinking man's Chad. And then he goes on to say, these emails take time and effort to create. They are much appreciated and ever welcome in my inbox. Thank you, sir. You're overpowering me with compliments today. Thank you ever so much. I do very much appreciate it. This one I might grab if you don't mind and use it as a bit of a testimonial because that's really cool. But I'm glad that that's the case. I'm glad that you enjoy that content. The books, obviously, there's 11 of them. I've written them over the last few years. They're not, I say 11 books, it sounds like it's this horrendously massive thing. And some of them are quite short. You know, some of them, because, for example, 3 of them are in a series called 50 Shades of Game. And it's like 3 volumes of the series. And they deal with, those particular books deal with the BDSM scene. They deal with swingers parties, and they deal with strippers. Okay, so that's a kind of a quite niche sort of set of subjects. That's 3 volumes of one book, if you like. I've also got How to Be an Arsehole, which is my sort of best-selling book, really, which is about the dark triad game, etc. I have a book called Still in the Game, which is about dating when you get into your late 30s and 40s, which is also extremely popular. What else? There's a book called Text Game Mastery in there, about texting, about sending messages, about Tinder, any sort of message platform that you need to use in order to be in contact with somebody. It covers that. What else is in there? Ton of stuff. A book called Cucked, about the current dating and marriage marketplace, which you will enjoy, I think, if you're into that kind of thing. Yeah, just loads and loads of content in there. It's a selection of books that I've been writing really since 2014. Oh, of course, the 7 Laws of Seduction, which was my first book about dating and game, is in there as well. Yeah, it's all awesome stuff, guys, and you should definitely pick it up if you haven't already. But the emails, I just sit down and write an email every day. And, you know, some days it's about whatever's on my mind. Other days it will follow a particular series, like we've been doing the series with the Art of Seduction stuff. And, you know, other times it'll just come out of the left field, or maybe I'll promote a course somebody's doing, or I'll let you know about a book somebody's writing, or, you know, whatever. But it's a really good way for us to keep in touch, because you know what it's like these days with these platforms. You know, we're all one video away from getting cancelled. So, you know, if you like my content and you want to keep in touch and you want to continue with me on this journey, because as cliched as that is to say, this is a journey. You know, I grow, my life changes, things that are happening to me change. I put that into content. I share it with you guys. If you want to continue on that journey, and let's face it, there's a lot of road left still to go, then the best thing you can do really is to get onto that email list, because that is the one platform that can't really get taken away. I mean, your email provider can obviously drop you for sure, but the actual list itself is your list. So get onto that list, and yeah, that is the best way to keep in touch with me, no matter what happens. Anyway, far too long talking about all of that stuff. Let us get into some actual content. And I see some people have put some questions, some thoughts in the chat, so I will get to those in a second. But just to kick us off, I was interested to see an article or a post rather on Reddit, on the Red Pill Reddit. And it's called the 1 out of 3 guideline, the 1/3 guideline. And this was posted by a guy called ULife, U/Leif. And it's under Red Pill Theory. And he says, I read once that when playing with a cat using a toy, it's best to engineer the game such that the cat gets the toy about 1/3 of the time. About 1/3 of the time. This ratio, I was told, is the one that keeps the cat interested in the game, preventing her from losing interest, 1, because it's too difficult, or 2, because it's too easy. Okay, so there's 2 sides to this. If the game is too difficult, the cat's going to lose interest because it's impossible and the cat's not going to win. And if the game is too easy, the cat is also going to lose interest. So you want to sort of keep it in the middle. You want to keep it in that magic realm in between those two poles where, yes, the game is challenging, but it's not impossible, because when the game is impossible, then what's the point in playing? People will just walk away from the table. Okay, this will become clear, the application of this, in a second. Because then he says, when engaging with a woman, I suggest rationing your attention, affection, effort, time, and energy, generally such that she can perceive it to be desirable, understand that it is possible for her to enjoy fully, and then miss an appropriate amount of time before getting her next dose. So you want her to miss you. You want her to, okay, appreciate that, you've got great qualities. You give a positive energy. She feels good when she's with you. She feels good when she's interacting with you. But you also need to give her that distance, that opportunity to miss you, so that it doesn't become cloying. It doesn't become overbearing and overpowering and boring, okay? Very important. An alternative analogy, he says, is video games. A video game that's too easy isn't engaging, but one that's too difficult never gets you hooked. These dynamics involve the fundamentals of dopamine, the substance that regulates every aspect of our lives. We really, really need to do a whole show on dopamine, don't we? Because dopamine is so important. It, as he says here, it rules every aspect of our lives. Dopamine is a cruel mistress that really, unless you learn how to manage your dopamine addiction, it really, really, keeps you under the lash, and you've got to find ways to negotiate that. He continues, if a woman becomes under the conscious or subconscious impression that she has mastered you, that she has obtained a level of value extraction from you that has peaked its potential, then her attentions will begin to wander elsewhere, and her visceral fixation on you will wane. Her visceral fixation on you will wane. Okay, so you've got to be mindful of this. If she experiences a rationed drip of value from you, knowing that you have more to give, but have not yet chosen to, she will continue to suck eagerly at that teat. Yes, she will continue to suck eagerly at that teat. And then the first commentator underneath says, golden ratio, read the 16 commandments of Poon. And indeed, he's right to underline that. So what do we think about this? It's quite hot in here, actually. What do we think about this? The 1/3 guideline. I mean, to me, I think you can get too wrapped up in these things. I think you can get a bit anal about this, and sort of, you don't want to be sitting there, literally trying to measure it out. Like, oh, is this a third? Is that a third? Have I given her a third? Or, of my attention. I mean, people talk about this in terms of text messaging, and they say, look at your text message conversations with whoever you're interacting with, and have a look at their investment versus your investment. And if you are, looking down on your WhatsApp screen and you've got a ton of messages like this, and she's replying like this, then that's not a good place to be in. And really, what you want to be doing is you want to be investing a third of the amount that she's investing. Okay, that's about right. That's a decent, I would say, rule of thumb, but it's not a figure to stake your life on. It's not a figure that you have to use to mark yourself against, and if you don't quite hit it, then that's a terrible, terrible thing, and you've done something terribly wrong. It's just a rule of thumb. And the mistake that sometimes guys will make is they get into this stuff, they start to learn more about dating dynamics. They start to try to improve their dating prospects, and they become too anal. They become too obsessed with the letter of the law, and they forego simple expediency and just a simple natural type of interaction. And you should never forego that. You need to do what seems natural, but at the same time, as the author of this post says, you also need to ensure that you're not giving too much so that it gets boring, and you're not giving too little so that it becomes impossible for her to get you, and therefore she just gives up. You want to play hard to get, but the key is hard, not impossible. Okay, So let's have a look at the comments. Lame Duck says, hair looking fab as usual, Troy. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I do my best. I do try to do what I can when I come on these streams. What else have we got? 5'2" balding janitor says, okay, I'll confess, this is a laugh. I'm not actually a 5'2" balding Indian janitor. I'm a 6'5" blonde, blue-eyed, muscular man who can bench 275. The problem is my wee-wee is only 2 inches, so I'm incel. Well, why would that be a problem? Because how is she really going to know before you get her back to the bedroom? You know, I mean, I assume that he's not picking up in naked saunas. I mean, maybe he is. Maybe he's based in Germany and he's picking up in the nudist saunas in Germany, and so she can see his genitalia before they get intimate, and you know, these women are rejecting him on that basis. But I think that's unlikely, and so I think penis size is something that, you know, because let's face it, once she is interested enough to invite you back and you guys are getting down to it on the chaise lounge or whatever, then, you know, she might not be best pleased that your member is mushroom-like in its dimensions, but she's probably still going to want to go through with things. So I don't think that in itself is really an adequate excuse, I'm afraid, regardless of your height and all the rest of it. Richard says, quarantine has made me a bit more selective when it comes to approaching. However, it has made warming up to a socially chatty mood a hit or miss. Any tips? Yeah, it's an interesting issue. It's an interesting problem. I would ask where you are in the world, though, really, because obviously a lot of places, the issue with warming up is that they're kind of in lockdown, and so therefore there aren't enough targets around, if you like. You know, you're not able to get the volume of social interactions in that perhaps you normally would. So, you know, perhaps you're somewhere where things are a little bit looser and you are able to have those conversations, which is good if that's the case. It's the thing with this is, right, that at the beginning you need to break the back of your approach anxiety, and you need to break the back of your reticence around approaching and your sort of rustiness in terms of conversation. And the very best way to do that is through volume. The very best way to do that is just having a lot of different interactions with a lot of different people. And listen, it doesn't have to be just attractive women. It doesn't have to be just about chatting people up. You know, if you're interacting at a party, for example, and you speak to 30 people, some of them guys, some of them women, whatever, then you are going to be in a more social mood by the end of that. And so when this woman that you're particularly attracted to comes into your purview, then it's going to be easier for you to converse with her in a way that is engaging and light and entertaining and so on and so forth. And there isn't really any getting around that until you've done enough approaches, until you've had enough interactions that it kind of becomes second nature to you. And even then, if you're in a position where you haven't approached and spoken to somebody that you've never met before in 3 months, you're still going to be rusty. Even people who make a whole career out of daytime approach or nighttime approach or whatever it is, even those people get rusty after they've had off periods. It's just natural. I certainly do. It's just natural. We're only human, right? And, you know, as well, if you are somebody who works quite intensely, if you're somebody who you have to sit down and you've got spreadsheets or you're coding or you're looking at loads of figures and stuff like that, to go from that into a social mood immediately, very, very tricky. Very tricky. Extremely difficult to do that. So you have to accept that you need to break the back of it somehow. Now, what you might want to do, if you're saying that you've now moved onto this sort of new plane whereby you don't want to approach just for the sake of it. You only want to approach girls that you find particularly attractive. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're still going to have to ensure that you are socially lubricated. So I would say the best thing you can do is just to be as damn social with everybody as you possibly can. And then when you are then standing in front of that woman who, you know, you're particularly interested in, it's going to come to you a lot more easily than if you've just sat at home for 3 months and not spoken a word to anybody, and then you see her. Okay. So I think you still need to warm up. It's just that you might choose to warm up in a slightly different way. And there are easy ways to do this. You can ask people directions. You can say good morning to people. You can give little compliments to people, even if you're not interested in taking things any further. There are lots and lots of things you can do to rid yourself of that social anxiety, to rid yourself of that reticence around the approach that doesn't involve speaking to a load of girls, because, you know, none of us want to be doing this stuff. I mean, listen, it's 2021. None of us have got time to be going to the shopping mall and speaking to 75 people over 5 hours. It's, you know, it's maybe you do that at first, if you like, in order to get warmed up, you know, if you're new to the whole thing. But in the main, we don't want to be doing this. We want social interaction, a normal social interaction, to be just part of our everyday lives. That's the goal of this. That's the end game of this. So then we can do something more important, you know? So then we can do something more important. Because quite frankly, this whole game dating thing is a time sink, unless you happen to be somebody who does it for a living, or, you know, you're kind of an addict or something. I mean, for most people, it's, you know, it's a part of your life that you want to get handled, for sure. But it's not something that you want to be spending inordinate amounts of time on every week. So I would say continue to warm up, but just continue to warm up in a slightly different way. And that means as soon as you leave the house, being sociable. That's what it comes down to, really. You know, as soon as you leave the house, you're speaking to the woman on the till on the counter at the liquor store, the bodega, or whatever you guys call it, wherever you are. You're speaking to the barista, you're speaking to the Uber driver, etc., etc., etc. You're getting yourself into that social mood, because you never know. You never know when that gorgeous lady is going to come into your eye line, and then you're going to have to find a way to be engaging and entertaining and witty and all that kind of stuff. What else have we got here? Adam says, I'm looking forward to standing outside the pub in the rain on a date in April. Yeah, are you in the UK? I forget. I think he's talking about the rollout of lockdown, or coming out of lockdown in the UK, which has just been announced. And yes, it could be that in April we can stand outside a pub. What else have we got? 44 watches and 1 like. I would say only 44 watches. Come on, guys. We need to get more people on this channel. This is ridiculous. We need to spread the word. We need to get the message out there. What is hip hop? Hello, sir. Good to see you. If you're in college and have the time, it's okay, I guess. But working busy people, yeah, not going to the mall for 5 hours. And that's true. And, you know, listen, you get people who talk about certainly day game, and they're like, it's low value behavior. And what they tend to be talking about is this thing about spam approaching. It's this thing about going out and talking to loads and loads of people. And, you know, to be honest, they're right. To be honest, in the main, except for perhaps at the beginning, or perhaps for a period of immersion in the you know, when you're first starting to get yourself into the vibe, you don't want to be spending hours and hours and hours doing this stuff, because it's just, it is low value, and you should be doing more important things, quite frankly, than just chasing around women. But of course, we all understand this is an area of our lives that guys, you know, want to get handled. And of course, you know, that's absolutely fine and it's valid. But in the end, you know, what does your life consist of? There's more to it than just that. And, you know, you need to be apportioning time appropriately. Deddy 2012 says, what do you think about gyms reopening last? I think it's completely ridiculous. Is that the case, though? I thought they were going to open maybe April or something. I thought that I didn't think they were last. I thought maybe, as far as I know, it's like the schools and then non-essential shops. And I heard gyms and potentially hairdressers, barbers, sometime in April. I mean, I could be wrong because I was listening to the announcement that Boris made in Parliament, but I was half listening and I was doing some work. So I need to, read the details later. But I don't think gyms are last, are they? I think things like hospitality is last, isn't it? And certainly things like theatres and nightclubs and stuff. I think we've got a long way to go for that yet. But yeah, I mean, it was a sort of like a little bit of a non-event today with the announcement in the UK, because yes, it's good that there seems to be a way forward out of this ridiculous scenario that we've all been in for the last year. But we're still going to be sitting around here for a long time, twiddling our thumbs, because it's going to be at least March and really into April before anything particularly interesting happens. Although I think you can sit down on a bench and have one coffee with somebody at some point. So if that's your bag, then that's good news for you. But yeah, I think most of us would prefer a little bit more action. Richard says, very true, warm up differently. Appreciate it, Troy. Thanks. Yeah, 100%. And look, this reminds me really of this whole situation through this whole pandemic and all of this stuff. People have been saying, so how do I do day game? How do I keep my mojo going through this difficult period and all of this stuff? And the truth is, you got to do what you can. We're all in uncharted territory. You've got to work with what's available to you. There's no easy, pat answer to this. It's not like you can just say, oh, well, just do this, do X, Y, and Z, and then it's going to be great. Except unless X, Y, and Z is get on a plane to Mexico. In which case, that probably is quite a good solution. But aside from that, unless you're going to travel from where you are to somewhere where there are fewer restrictions, just by the nature of what's going on, you are going to be somewhat restricted in terms of what you can do. So work within that. I mean, I have to say in London over the last few days, it's been pretty busy. There's a lot of people out and about. And I think with the announcement today and the sense that, this is starting to ease off a bit now, I think that we are going to see more and more people around. And I think that, and especially if the weather starts to get good as well. So, you got to go out there and do what you can, warm up how you can, approach the people that are out there to be approached. Don't overcomplicate it. Raf says, do you use any drugs to keep your hair? No, I don't actually. I think, are you talking about anti-balding stuff or whatever? No, I don't. I'm just genetically very blessed with great hair and a very large penis as well. So I'm very lucky. Mr. Big Steve-O says COVID lockdown lifting soon. Yes, absolutely. We're just discussing that. It does look like they are starting to ease out of this. And I think the good news, and again, I'm only speaking of the UK here, but I think the good news seems to be that there is this sea change now where they are starting to move towards a position of, look, we're just going to have to learn to live with this. We're just going to have to learn to live with this. Boris Johnson said there is no credible roadmap to zero COVID. So the conclusion from that is basically we're going to have to live with this, right? I mean, things will be eased, and as they're eased, cases and so on will go up. That was always inevitable. But we're now in a position where, because of the vaccinations, it's less damaging. And so, we're just kind of going to have to get on with things. And some would argue we should have done that from the beginning. Well, we are where we are. But anyway, hopefully we're heading in a decent direction. Nash Stripe says, just an opinion, was listening to Kevin Samuels the other day, and he recommends women in their epiphany phase leave men who don't commit to them after 3 to 6 months. Well, this is advice obviously directed at women, and it's probably not bad. I think perhaps 3 months is a bit. I think 3 months is a little bit short. 6 months is probably a bit more like it. I would say 6 to 6 to 12 months or 6 to 9 months or something like this, I would say. But yeah, I mean, why not? Because obviously that woman, he's talking about the epiphany phase, by which he means the phase when the woman thinks, God, I really need to settle down. I need to find the one. I need to find that guy who's going to be there and help me achieve the kind of life I want to live, if it's a family life and so on. And I think that's fair. I think that's reasonable, you know? None of us have got any time to mess around, really, men or women. You know, we haven't got the time to mess around, and so I think that's not unreasonable at all as advice for girls. Nash says, I personally think that's fair. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you know, as much as we create content for guys and we talk about the male experience, bit of empathy for the other side never goes amiss. And look, I mean, women, you know, many women have certain things they want to do in life. They want to become mothers. They want to settle down. And that's fair enough, because everyone should be allowed to do what they want to do. And if you're a woman and that's what you want to do, then yes, you need to find a guy who's going to facilitate that. And you don't want to be saddled with some idiot who doesn't want to facilitate that and is kind of wasting your time. So yeah, I think it's reasonably fair. I mean, you know, it's sometimes sad because obviously people have differing things that they want in life and out of relationships, and sometimes, you know, relationships have to break up and all of that. But I mean, you know, in the end, we've got to be pragmatic, right? I mean, this is how life is. Adam says, summer COVID orgy at the Torture Garden on the cards. I certainly hope so. I mean, I have even heard some talk about nightclubs. I have heard talk about nightclubs for later in the summer, like August, I suppose, or September. So yeah, I mean, you know, we could be live streaming from Torture Garden on this very show in August. I mean, you never know, and you might get to see some lovely ladies wearing latex or those little nipple tassel things, and so on. And yeah, I mean, obviously that'll be a really great thing for all of us. But let's see how we go. I think, of course, a lot of this is going to be vaccine contingent, and you know, like it or not, I think that's just how things are going to go. But yeah, hopefully we are. So what is hip hop saying? You guys finally catching up to Florida. Finally, some stuff opens up. Well, mate, I'm afraid we've got a long way to go, because my understanding is Florida's kind of open, and we are not going to be open in any really meaningful sense for at least another couple of months. But they are starting to ease things, and they have sort of provided the roadmap. So, you know, I mean, as I say, that it's all well and good. It's moving in the right direction, but I think in the end, you know, you've got to kind of have a look at it and think, well, actually, do I want to sit around and wait, or would I rather just leave the country and go somewhere else? And that's what many people are opting to do. And, you know, it depends on what you got going on and your, you know, responsibilities or your, you know, whatever sort of situation you're in. But, you know, many people have taken the view, including James Tusk, well, sod it, I'm not going to sit around here and wait for Boris to slowly crank the country up again. I'm going to bugger off somewhere else and have a good time. And really, that is the renegade thing to do. Really, that is the libertarian thing to do, isn't it? It's like, look, I mean, you know, I get that the country is doing what it feels it needs to do and blah, blah, blah. But for me personally, it sounds a little bit boring. So I'm just going to do something else and sod you. Toon Army, who I guess is from Newcastle, although whether he's still in Newcastle at the moment or not, I don't know. He says, why do some women not respond to the first message, even if it was a decent interaction and opening text? Why not just withhold the digits in the first place, save everyone time and feeling low? Or he's feeling low, but or save everyone from feeling low. I mean, it's like how long is a piece of string, isn't it? It could be any number of reasons. Sometimes women will give out their number when they're not interested, just to get you to go away. I mean, this is the reality. You know, and women, as with many guys, they don't like awkwardness. They don't like confrontation. And it shouldn't be confrontational to say, I don't want to give you my number. And it probably isn't confrontational, but they feel bad about it because it requires them to reject somebody face to face. And that can be difficult for some women. That can be difficult for some men. It can be challenging. And so they seek to evade that by giving out the contact details and then just not responding later. Is that a bit of a crappy thing to do? Probably, but in the big scheme of things, it's not really up there with a war crime, is it? You know, so, or it could be that she is also talking to some other people, other guys, and she kind of liked you at the time, and then some other dude slid into the DMs, and he was more Chad than you are, and so she has decided to invest her energies in him. Or it could be, and this is another thing, it could be that she got pumped up on the emotions at the point of the interaction because she met you and she's like, and you come out of nowhere and you're like, hey, you're really cute. I want to come talk to you. And she's like, whoa, you know, and it's all fun and excitement and fizzy and everything. But then she goes home and then she looks and she's like, hang on a minute, who is this dude? I don't even know this guy. You know, we only spoke for a couple of minutes. And then she tells her friend about it. And the friend says, and by the way, I don't know where you're talking about getting these phone numbers from, but let's say it's from Day Game. She tells her friend about it, and the friend says, well, that's a bit, what, you gave some dude outside Marks and Spencer's your phone number? You don't even know him. That's really weird. Like, what are you doing? You know, she's like, well, should I reply to him? The friend's like, no, don't be stupid. What are you talking about? So there could be that sense of buyer's remorse as well. And something that Tom Torero would always say is that if you go into an interaction and it's all attraction, you know, and it's all flirtation, it's all attraction, it's all very fizzy and bubbly and fun, but she doesn't really know anything about you on any sort of deeper level, that can be problematic because then she can walk away and think, well, hang on a minute, that guy, don't know much about him. He's probably just a player. He probably does this all the time. I'm not going to get involved with that. So it can really help. And I talk about this, and when I do infield instruction, I show this. It can really, really help to ground the thing after you've reached that sort of point of attraction, after you reach the hook point where she is giving you something back, where she is buying into the interaction, where she is seeking to continue the interaction. Maybe she's asking you questions. Maybe she's patting you on the arm playfully. Maybe she's laughing at your jokes, or maybe it's just the eye contact and the way she's smiling at you. When you know that she's invested in the interaction and she's keen, or at least she's, you know, she's kind of happy to have you around and she's sort of enjoying the interaction, then you can start to turn the dial down. Then you don't have to keep being so flirty and so fun and that kind of player kind of guy. Then you become more of a regular guy, more of a normal guy. Now, I'm not saying give her your life story. I'm not saying, you know, start telling her all of the details of your job and, you know, your travel plans for the next year and, you know, all this kind of thing, because you don't want to pierce the mystery either. But you do want to show her to some degree that you're a normal human being and that you are, you know, yeah, you came over, you were a little bit cheeky, you know, a little bit flirty, a little bit of a player, whatever. But underneath all that, you're actually, you know, a decent guy who's actually got a life, you know, and you might drop in a few details. You might say, listen, I actually just work over there, or I go to the co-working space over there, and I happened to see you walking past and had to come over. Or you might say, I was just actually on my way to the gym. Well, if you're in the UK, you might have to wait 2 months for that, but still, I was just on my way to the gym. And I normally pick up a sandwich in that place over there because I work in this area, and that's how come I saw you walking past. You know, you want to give some grounding to it so that she gets the sense that you're a real human being. You're not just this cartoon character who leapt out of nowhere, because otherwise, as I say, it can be too fizzy. It can be too ephemeral, and she can seek to reject you on that basis because she gets back and she thinks, well, who the hell was this dude? Like, it was just weird. Alternatively, it can happen the other way around, okay, where the interaction was too friendly And it lacked that flirtatiousness. It lacked that sort of erotic undercurrent, which you need to subtly bring in. It lacked that nuance of, this is a little bit exciting. And so you may have had a nice chat, but why would she want to see you again? Why would she want to see you again? You know, that sort of like, there wasn't any fire there. There wasn't any interest there. There wasn't anything to get her a little bit excited. So you've got to balance it just right. There's got to be that element of excitement and intrigue and, you know, eroticism. But equally, you don't want to go too far in that direction, because otherwise it would just be like, oh, this guy's a CD player. He's only after one thing. I don't feel like who the hell is he anyway? And then that doesn't work. So you've got to get the balance right, as Depeche Mode once said. And it's tricky, you know? And sometimes you'll overshoot one way or the other. And, you know, that's just how it goes. But you need to get it right. You need to get that you need to get it in the center in order for it to really stick. And also as well, look, the final thing to say on this is, and again, I'm using day game as my key sort of, like, I'm thinking day game when I'm saying these things, although this applies in other aspects of game as well. You've got to accept that you're not going to win them all. In fact, you're going to win very few of them. You know, most day game approaches end in a rejection in one form or another. That's just the way things are. You know, what are you going to do? You know, and sometimes you have a great interaction and it won't lead anywhere for one reason or another. Why? Who knows? You know, sometimes things just don't work out. So it's always got to be about going out there and pitching. It's like being in business, pitching for sales. You've got to keep going out there, getting those appointments, pitching. And some of them are going to come off and a lot of them aren't. And that's just how it is. So you've got to get right with that as well. And it's all right. It's not bad. It's you know, you only need, as has been said by people much wiser than me, you only need a few yeses to make an amazing life. You only need a few people to say yes to whatever it is that you're selling, whatever it is you're offering, to have an amazing life. And it's certainly the same with dating. You don't need all of them to say yes. You don't need all of them to fall in love with you. You just need a few. You know, in a month, you only need one or two, maybe, you know, and you are still miles ahead of the nearest competition. Miles ahead. So you've got to get some sense of proportion into this as well. You're not going to win them all, and it's okay. Pretty Fly Afro guy says, is it gay if you like to hear Troy talking? No, absolutely not. It is studiedly heterosexual. Randall says, I'm a cab driver and my only vehicle is my cab, which I own. Should I pick up another car for going on dates? Not necessarily. I don't think it really matters that much, to be honest. I mean, does it have all of is it very obviously a cab when you're inside? And when you say cab as well, are you talking about a black cab, like a London cab? But no, not necessarily. And do you even need to drive anyway? Again, I guess it depends where you are. But, you know, do you really need to drive? You could turn up in, you know, just public transport or whatever, turn up, meet her at the venue, get a cab back yourself. I mean, there is that aspect as well. But I think it depends on the kind of cab. I mean, if it's just like an Uber and, you know, it's not massively obvious, then I don't think it really matters. And even if it is massively obvious, I mean, the only reason you might want to not use that vehicle is if you don't want to tell her that you know, your work as a driver. But I wouldn't advise doing that. I think that we should always be upfront about the things that we do within reason. So, so yeah, that will be my response on that. I'm just having a look at the chat here. He says, "Yeah, I'm a branded taxi in Phoenix, Arizona." Well, I mean, I don't think it should be a deal breaker. I really don't think it should be a deal breaker. But like I tend not to, just because of where I am and the public transport and stuff. I don't tend to drive to these things. I mean, I'll just turn up and meet her at wherever the venue is, and maybe get a cab back, or arrange the date so that it's near to where you live. I don't know what your logistics are like, but if your logistics are any good, you meet her at a venue near to where you are, and then there's no need for any transport anyway. That's the ideal. Because remember, logistics are all important in dating, and if your logistics are such that there's a cool bar just down the road and you take her there, that's the optimum. So what is hip hop is referring back to the last thing we were talking about. He said, all you can do is make sure you're having good interaction. Sometimes they fake for reasons that are ridiculous and aren't to do with you. I mean, you're never really going to know. This is the thing, unless she happens to message you with some sort of feedback. But in general, you're not going to really know exactly why she has not flaked or not come back to you or whatever. And you just got to chalk it up to experience. This is a game, it's a game. This is like throwing the dice. Every time you go out, you throw the dice and see what comes up. You pick up the cards. Sometimes you've got an amazing hand. Sometimes you've got a fantastic hand. Other times you got a terrible hand. And that's just how it is. You've got to take the rough with the smooth, and any other cliches I can think of. But it says Randall drives a 2010 Prius that's blatantly a cab, and Adam says a Prius will dry her up quicker than a Honda. I don't know. I mean, what's your logistics like? Could you not meet her near to where you live? Could you not just meet her somewhere in town and then get a cab back yourself? That would work, I think. What is hip hop said? RSD Jeffrey had a creepy van. I get the concern, but taxi ain't a creepy van. Well, of course, Tom Torrero's got a creepy van as well, and he does very well with that. It's not a creepy van, actually. It's a very nice van, very nicely appointed, and he does very well with that. So yeah, I think the only issue I could think of with a cab is if you kind of don't want to tell her that you're driving cabs as a job. And I would never advise anybody to lie about their job. You don't want to say you're the CEO of an oil company or something if that's not true. But at the same time, I can understand why you might not want to offer up that information immediately. I mean, I'm not going to offer up the information of exactly what I do immediately because, well, for obvious reasons. So, and if your vehicle is where you make your living, then obviously that's problematic. So I would just say maybe just meet her at the venue and then get a taxi yourself, get public transport yourself to go back. Farhan, who's a regular on the show, says, thank you for tuning in. He says, are cheap hotels good logistics? Well, the problem with hotels, and particularly cheap hotels, you can imagine some sort of like motel with like the, the fan on the ceiling and like the flickering neon light and stuff. I mean, it's some women are probably rightly going to not be so keen on that, particularly if it's the first time that you're going back with her, because it feels a bit hookerish. Let's be honest. It feels a bit like she's an escort, and it's sort of like, well, why are you taking me back here? Are you married? Are you, like all this stuff's going to be going through their head, and she's potentially going to feel like a bit of a, like as if you are treating her like a paid professional, and that's never a good vibe. So, I mean, I think if it's somebody that you've been seeing for a bit longer, then sure, you can stay in a hotel and make it fun and sexy, and that's great. Or if you can kind of tee it up a bit and sort of say, oh, I just love the idea of staying in hotels. There's just something about it, and sort of seed it like that, then you might get away with it. But I think if you go out and then you say, come back to my place, and she goes, okay, where is it? It's like, oh, it's the Bates Motel over the road. Then it might work, but it might not be a great move depending on the kind of girl. So I don't know if anyone else has got any thoughts on that. Stick it in the chat. It's not something that I've done for a first get together. Let's say that. I've certainly stayed in hotels with girls in my time, but it has tended to be when I have, spent a bit more time with them first, and it's a planned thing. Modern Life Dating is asking, money muscles game. Absolutely. Money muscles game. Fortunately, having all three of them, I guess my job here is done, really. Okay, sorry, I'm missing all of John's messages here. He's saying, Troy, do you see me living in a van one day? No. Why do some of these PUAs go off the deep ends? Isn't the end game for Red Pill knowledge to use the information to make the best out of our lives? Yeah, I would agree. It is. I mean, someone like Tom, he is very minimalist, and that's just his thing, and he just wanted to not, he's almost the opposite of John MLD in a way. He's, not really about making money. He just wanted to have freedom at the lowest possible price or cost, and each to their own, I guess. Each to their own. I don't really have a massive problem with it, but I do take John's point that ultimately, really, why not have the richest? I don't mean rich in monetary terms, but why not have the richest life experience that you can possibly have? And obviously, money is a big facilitator of that. So I do agree with what John's saying here, but I also think different strokes for different folks. I mean, we all know the people who've really gone off the rails, and I'm not sure. I think we can think of real examples of people who've gone off the rails, particularly people who've grown beards and found God. And I don't, and it's not necessary. It's really not necessary. It shouldn't be necessary to find this kind of knowledge or to live this kind of a lifestyle and then to go nuts at the end of it. It really, really shouldn't, because all we're doing really is leading optimized lives as guys, leading optimized lives as men. We're not doing anything that should be out of the ordinary. I mean, we're talking about living extraordinary lives and enjoying the very best of what life has to offer. And there shouldn't then be this reckoning at the end of it where you're like, oh my God, I'm just going to go nuts and go and live on a mountain or something. It shouldn't be like that. What else have we got? Braver Leach says, most people in this chat probably aren't red pill. Heck, I'm not even truly red pill yet. Well, I mean, don't worry about the labels. Don't worry about the labels. Worry about what you want to get out of your life. Worry about what you want to get out of your life and take it from there. Braver Leach says most PUAs aren't red pill. Well, I don't really like the term PUA, but I think a lot of people who are successful in terms of dating or successful to the degree that they have something to teach other people or some experience to share with other people, I think most of them are red pill to a degree, because I don't think you can not be. I mean, the whole red pill thing came out of pickup artists. It came out of pickup artists who are out there in the field experiencing life and experiencing interactions with women and then reporting back. And that's where the whole red pill thing came from. So it's very difficult to be somebody with any breadth of experience in this field and not be to some degree red pill, because you are exposed, you're at the cutting edge of male-female relations and you see how things go down. And so you just become red pilled by the process, even if you've never read The Rational Male, even if you've never watched a Red Rule Zero or anything else, you're just naturally going to become red pilled. I mean, there are certainly some blue pill or purple pill dating coaches out there for sure, but I mean, so what? Who cares? That's certainly not the majority of us. Smash the like button. No super chats. What is this communist China? Yeah, absolutely, it is. All right, what else have we got here? Yeah, we should do an episode on this actually. John, if you want to, Have we done this before? We should do a show about this. Why do PUAs go off the deep end? I think we probably have in some shape or form, but it's always interesting to chat about. Eltar says, I think a lot of PUAs have a lot of issues to start off with that never get rectified by sleeping with women. The whole van life thing, I don't understand either. Well, listen, I'm not a van life guy. I would find it very hard to get on board with that. But I think he's correct that a lot of people do have issues. Because if you're somebody who's drawn to sleeping with a ton of women and making a career of it, I'm not saying it's a pathological thing, because it is partly just male drive and that's just what guys want to do. But it's certainly, to take it to that nth degree, it certainly makes you a certain type of person, I would say. But I don't think the answer, well, clearly the answer is not to do that for 10 years and then to go nuts at the end of it. It shouldn't be like that. It should be more, you should be balanced. You should be looking after, and actually this is why Money Muscles Game is such a great formula, because you want to be looking after all the individual elements of your life as you're going through. I would actually add one to Money Muscles and Game, and that would be spirituality of some kind. And I don't mean finding God, but I just mean, you've got to kind of keep yourself right in some sort of a way. I'm not sure if I can think of something beginning with M so that it fits in with the with Money Muscles. But I think the situation with someone like Rouge, I think that he was, he got girls to some degree. He had travel, he had some excitement, he had kind of interesting life, but there was clearly something missing, as you say. And you need to address that as you're going along. You don't leave it for a decade and then have a mental breakdown. You need to sort of try and address that as you're going along, so that you don't have to become an Orthodox Christian, getting up at 3 a.m. to go to services in your 40s, because who wants to do that? Farhan says, in your experience, how do you minimize premature ejaculation during day game? I've never been able to minimize that. It's a problem I have to this day. No, of course, he says, how do you minimize premature ejection during day game from the first one or two? Well, you don't really have to. If you're talking about the first one or two approaches, and he's saying, how do you stop yourself from leaving those interactions too early? I would say, don't sweat it. Because the first one or two that you do, they are going to be the most difficult. You're going to be the most rusty. You're going to find them challenging. So yeah, don't sweat it, right? You want to go in, say what you got to say, and then if you feel a bit uncomfortable, get out. So what? There's going to be plenty more, and you're going to get better as you go along. Now, it could be that the first or second girl that you come into contact with is incredibly attractive. You're like, oh my God, I can't mess this up. And in which case, you're going to have to try to stay in there for longer. And the way that you do that is partly by just forcing yourself to do it, but also understanding the structure of an approach, which is something that, look up the London Day Game model. That will give you a very good structure. It's certainly something I've covered myself in various videos, and certainly my private community. So if you know a structure, that's going to allow you to stay in there for a bit longer. Okay. And getting good with conversation, getting good with the gift of the gab. Eltar says, and I think we're talking about PUAs again. I think it's almost like they hope getting with women will solve their problems, and then they go nuts when they realize it won't. I think that's true. And in a funny sort of a way, there's something almost blue pill about that, isn't there? Because it is this sense that this divine woman, the divine woman, the Madonna, will save me in some way. And of course, that's always ridiculous. That's always false. So yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. And I think if you and the real red pill is to realize up front that that's false. And so then hopefully you don't go nuts at the end of it, because you don't have this amazing letdown where you're like, oh damn, I met all these girls and now I'm still not happy. And then you go crazy. Because really you should have realized from the off that it was never going to make you happy. I mean, you may have been pleasurable, you may have had some good experiences, but it wasn't going to make you happy. So you need to seek these other things that are going to make you happy. And that's why I talk about spirituality. And look, I don't, I don't want to go all woo-woo here. I don't, I'm not talking about religion, but there are certain, you need to get right with yourself and your place in the bloody universe. Okay. And however you do that, there are different ways to do that. There are different sort of approaches. You need to do it because none of us wants to go nuts at the end of a 10-year, meaningless thought bender. Roman says day game can almost means nothing if she hasn't been compliant and makes plans afterwards. You can talk to her all you want. She can just block your number right away. The approach should be the least worry. They usually go smoothly. Yeah, I mean, the really difficult bit of day game and really any kind of game is not the approach. It's what do you do then? How do you keep it going? Because you can walk up and say, oh, hi, I just saw you. You look cute. Well, great. Well, then what? And that's the tricky bit. Or even worse, you follow up with something and then what do you do? And then she's like, okay, right, bye. And then you've lost it. So yes, absolutely. The approach is actually not the most tricky bit. How do you keep yourself motivated after a bad session or bad interaction that makes you feel silly? I don't tend to feel silly, really. I sort of block that out because I don't think that's a matter of framing. And if you feel silly, it's because you've bought into somebody else's frame of what happened. I would congratulate myself on having had the balls to go and take action. Nothing silly about that. Yeah, okay, maybe it didn't go that well. Well, so what? But I'm still doing more than 99% of other dudes would do. So I still win, okay? So I wouldn't frame it, or I wouldn't allow myself to buy into the frame that I was silly in the first place. And in terms of getting motivated, well, the motivator really is the fact that you want to have a sex life, I would suggest. Don DeMarco says, what's your best book on verbal game when approaching? I don't really have one. And it's something that I want to address. It's something that I will likely create a book or a product on this year. And so watch this space. But I think practice makes perfect is the quickest thing that I could say. Practice makes perfect. You've got to just keep throwing yourself into those interactions, throwing stuff out there. Some of it will stick, some of it won't. Getting used to it. And also lowering the bar as well. Talking about what the hell you want to talk about. Even if it's stupid, it doesn't really fucking matter. It's keeping the rhythm of the conversation going is the most important thing. Okay, look, guys, I am going to have to leave it now because I've got to pop out. But it's been awesome to be on here. Thanks, everybody for coming in. Good to see all you guys. Thanks to John Modern Life Dating for popping in. I will likely not be on tomorrow because, as I say, I have got to work on this product and I need to take some time. So I likely won't be on tomorrow live. I may put out a clip or a short video or something. Wednesday, I will be back because I've got Nick August in the house, the editor of Punch Riot magazine. So that's going to be a good conversation with him. And then Friday, all being well, we'll have James Tusk. But Tuesday and Thursday, I may not be live because I do need to just work on this approach product. So, but I'll stick some information in the community tab anyway. So look out for that. I'll probably do some kind of short video or something tomorrow anyway. Any opinion on old RSD concepts and content? Yeah, I'm a fan. I think they're great. I have some small contact with Owen, and I think he's a great guy. I mean, I know he gets criticism and stuff, but I mean, he built a multi-million-dollar business, so he must be doing something right. Focus on the grind, guys. See you next time. Everybody, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications, give me a like, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you want, and get on my free daily email list as well. And also, if you want to grab my books about dating, game, the dating marketplace, you heard it here yourself from Mr. Alpha Widowmaker. who up here has given us a lovely review of the books. And I can't find it now. It seems to have disappeared. But anyway, grab those books. It's only $39. Renegade Dating Blueprint, link below. I'll see you guys again very soon.